Okay, students. Back meeting. Okay, dear students. Okay, welcome to the afternoon session of this webinar. So the first class, we are going to start with the physical sciences. Okay, so here. Okay. Yes, so I think we shall wait for some 2-3 minutes. I think the students are joining, so just 2 minutes we'll wait, and then we'll go for the presentation one by one. Yes, students, I think we'll start the webinar. Okay, so here first let me introduce briefly, like here, since you were in the 8th class, I think you didn't go to school, majority of the students. So here actually I'll just give you the brief introduction of the science first, and then we'll go into the further. So here actually general science, it is actually divided into two subjects, physical science as well as the biological science. So from 8th class, 8th, 9th and 10th, this general science, you will be studying under physical sciences, one subject, and biological sciences, the next subject. Okay. And the total 80 marks, which you are going to write for the summative exams. So summative exams or formative exams, the marks are equally divided for physical sciences as well as the biological sciences. So under general science, both the subjects are to be studied equally. Okay, now let us go into the physical sciences part. I'll be taking the physical sciences. So the total chapters you have in the physical sciences are 12. So out of 12 topics, like in the webinar, like for these 2 months, 4 topics will be dealt. Okay, so the first chapter is matter around us. Okay, so this topic will be taken by me, and other 3 chapters will be taken up by some other physical subject teachers. Okay, now let us go into the topic first. Okay, so first I would like to discuss matter around us. So before going into this, first let us understand first of all what is matter. Okay, so what is matter? So matter around us means what? The surroundings. So where we are living, whatever we are observing, here, there, everywhere. So all these are what? They are surroundings. So whatever we look around, the surroundings, everything comprises of matter. So at the end of this chapter, what is the main learning objective? What you are going to learn from this topic? So here the learning objective of each chapter is very important, because as soon as the chapter is completed, the student must know what he has learned from that particular chapter. Okay. So learning objectives. So what is the learning objective of this chapter? The student will explain the different states of matter. along with the examples. So at the end of this chapter, you will be able to differentiate different types of matter which are present in the surroundings. And you can also quote different types of examples for different states of matter. Okay, now let us go into the definition of what is matter. Okay, students, see here, matter. So first of all, let us understand the definition of what is matter. So what is matter? Matter is anything which occupies space and has mass. What do you mean by that? So here, as we have discussed, matter in our surroundings. So any substance, any object, any living thing or non-living thing. So the matter may not be necessarily a living thing or a non-living thing. It can be anything. Why? Because just now we have seen the definition of matter as anything which occupies space and has mass. For example, if you take a book, book is a non-living thing. If you keep a book on the table, that means the book has some mass and it is occupying space on the table. So that means a book is a matter. But similarly, if you take a person who is standing in the surrounding. So here a book is a non-living thing, whereas a person is a living thing. So both the person as well as the book, they form a matter. Why? Because both of them has mass as well as they are occupying space in the surroundings. That means a matter may not be specifically a living thing or non-living thing. It can be anything which occupies space and has mass. I think you have understood the definition of matter more clearly. Okay. Now, next we will go into the classification of matter. How the matter is classified. See, in the surroundings, we find different things, different matter. So it is very difficult to say this is one sort of matter, that is one kind of matter. So what the scientists or the Indian philosophers, they felt that it is necessarily the matter should be classified so that it will be very easy to understand. So for that purpose, our Indian philosophers, early Indian philosophers, they classified in the form of 5 basic elements. So this matter, whatever we are observing in our surroundings, they classified this matter in terms of 5 basic elements, 5 main elements. So what are they? Air, earth, fire, sky, and water. So these are called as Pancha Tattva. Pancha means what? 5. Tattva means what? Fundamentals. So the matter was classified by the Indian philosophers into 5 basic units or 5 basic elements. What are they? Air, earth, fire, sky, and water. So all these 5 fundamental units were named as Pancha Tattva. So this is one way of classification of matter which was done by our Indian philosophers. Okay. Now, so that was according to the Indian philosophy, the Pancha Tattva. Now, coming to the next classification of matter based on the physical state. Physical state means what? The appearance. For example, if you take a book, just now I said, yes, the book has brown cover, or if you say the book has white cover. So you can, suppose you want to give some regarding a book to any other person. So what do you say? The brown color book, the white color book. So how you are able to judge? Depending upon its physical appearance, isn't it? So similarly, the matter was classified into different types based on its physical state. Okay. So on the basis of physical state, matter is classified as what? 3 types. What are they? Solids, liquids, and gases. So the properties of these solids, liquids and gases, we will come in the future. We will learn in more detail. But for the time being, just remember that the matter is classified into 3 states: solids, liquids and gases. So this classification was based on the physical state. This is one way of classification of the matter. Now, another method of classification is what? On the basis of chemical composition. Chemical composition means what? Whatever the particles which are present inside the substance. So that is called as the chemical composition. So based on that chemical composition, the matter is classified as what? Pure substances, and the other one is what? Mixtures. So children, what we have studied till now regarding the classification of matter, the classification of matter was done in 3 different ways. The first one was what? According to Indian philosophy, the matter was classified into 5 basic elements which are called as Pancha Tattva. So that was one way of classification which was done in the olden days. Now, the next second way of classification of matter is what? It was done based on its physical state. So depending on the physical state, what are the different types? Solids, liquids and gases. That is the second way of classification of matter. Next, what is the third way of classification of the matter? On the basis of chemical composition, they are classified as either pure substances and mixtures. Now, next we will see what are these pure substances and mixtures. Okay. Now, pure substances may be elements or compounds. So what do you mean by elements or what do you mean by compounds? Let us see. Element. So generally you might be knowing iron, aluminium, silicon. So these are what? They are all different elements. So generally all these elements, they are present in the Earth's crust. They are present in the Earth's crust, but generally not pure elements are present. They are always present in the combined form. Combined form means in terms of its compounds. For example, if you take ferric oxide, ferric oxide. Ferric oxide means you will have iron there, but you don't get pure iron from ferric oxide, from its compound. You have to extract iron. Okay, so this is the difference between the element and the compound. So these pure substances may be either the elements or the compounds. So from the compounds, we can extract the pure element. Okay, now coming to mixtures. So mixture you might be seeing, if you mix any two substances, you get a mixture, isn't it? Now in your household also, you will have a snacky item, mixture. So what do you observe in that mixture? You will have all different types of materials present in that, isn't it? So that is called as a mixture. So mixture is what? A combination of 2 or more substances. So that is called as a mixture. Now this mixture can be of 2 types. What are they? Homogeneous mixture or heterogeneous mixture. Now let us understand first what is homogeneous mixture and then what is heterogeneous mixture. Okay, now look at the name. Homogeneous. Homo means what? Same. When you go for hetero, it is different. So in homogeneous mixture, 2 substances of the same kind, mix together. Whereas in heterogeneous mixtures, substances of 2 different kinds, they mix up. That is called as the heterogeneous mixture. Okay. So homogeneous and heterogeneous, we don't have much in detail, but for a time being, you just try to understand Homogeneous mixture means same compound mixtures. Heterogeneous mixtures means different compound mixtures. So that is about pure substances and mixtures. Now, let us see physical nature of matter. So till now we have seen what is matter, how the classification of matter is done. Okay. Now next we will see what is the physical nature of matter. So in the second point, just now we have seen under classification of matter, based on the physical nature of matter, it is classified into three different types. What are they? Solids, liquids, and then gases, isn't it? Now, let us understand what is this physical nature of matter. Okay, now let us see the first point. Matter is made up of particles. So what is matter? So matter consists of many thousands and millions of the particles. Next, the particles of matter are very tiny. What do you mean by tiny? Very small. So first of all, the matter is made up of many more number of tiny particles. That means the matter is made up of very small particles which are innumerable. Innumerable means which cannot be counted. So many tiny particles are present inside the matter. Next, third property, third physical nature of the matter. The particles of the matter have space between them. The particles of the matter have space between them. That means just now we have seen that the matter consists of what? Innumerable number of tiny particles. So between each tiny particle, there is a space. That means these particles are not tightly bound to one another. They have space between them. That means each tiny particle is has some little space between the another tiny particle. So there is a space between each and every tiny particle present inside the matter. That is the third point. Next, coming to the next point, fourth point, the particles of matter are continuously moving. So do these tiny particles which are present in the matter are at their fixed positions? No, they always keep on moving. What do you mean by continuously? They are not fixed at their positions. They keep on changing their positions from time to time. They do not take rest, but they always keep on moving continuously. Okay. So next, what is the fifth point? The particles of matter attract each other. So what is the fifth point? The particles of the matter attract each other. That means whatever the tiny particles which are present inside the matter, the first thing is each tiny particle is separated from the other tiny particle with some space in between. And these tiny particles, they are not at all at rest, but they keep on moving continuously, isn't it? And then the particles of these matters, the particles of these matter, they keep on attracting each other. So what do you mean by attraction? Attraction means what? Suppose one of the particle is moving. Suppose one of the particle is moving away from the other. It does not mean that the particle which is moving away from the other particle, they don't have any attraction among them, but they have some sort of attractive force among each other. So what are the 5 properties we have studied about the physical nature of matter? Just once again we will review. The first point is what? Matter is made up of particles. How these particles are? They are very small. The next one is the particles of matter, generally they have space between them. Okay. Next, the particles of matter, they keep on moving continuously without halting or without taking any rest. Next, the particles of matter, they keep on attracting each other. That means between each tiny particles present in the matter, there exists some sort of attractive force. So due to that attractive force, once the particle starts moving from each other, then the other particle also will start moving away from some other particle. So these are the main properties of the matter based on the physical state. So these properties are very important, children. Why? Because these properties are very important to classify the matter into solids, liquids, and then gases. Okay. So till now, generally, what is matter? Whatever we see around, whatever we see in the surroundings, that is called as a matter. So how the matter is classified? First of all, it is classified in 3 different ways, isn't it? What is the first way of classification? It was done in the ancient period by our Indian philosophers who classified the matter based on that means matter consists of what? 5 basic elements which are called as what? Panchatattva. Okay. Next, what is the second way of classification of matter? Based on the physical nature. So based on the physical nature, the matter is classified into what? Solids, liquids, and then gases. Okay. Next, what is the third way of classification? Based on the chemical composition. They are classified into pure substances and mixtures. Then what are pure substances? They may be elements or they may be compounds. And what are mixtures? Mixtures are either homogeneous mixtures, which means same kind of substances are mixed, or they may be heterogeneous mixtures where different kinds of substances are mixed, isn't it? Now, how the physical nature of matter can be explained? So matter is made up of particles, and these particles are very small, and then the particles, whatever the tiny particles which are present in the matter, they have space between them. They are not bounded to each other tightly, and then the particles of the matter, they are always moving continuously. They are not at all at rest, and then these particles of the matter, they attract each other, isn't it? Now, whatever the 5 properties we have seen, for these 5 properties, we have some activities. We have activities. So different activities were proposed based on the above properties. So altogether, we have total 5 activities. Okay. So first activity, let us see. The first activity is what? Matter is made up of particles, isn't it? So this one activity we have, this first point we have studied under physical nature of matter. What was the first point? Matter is made up of particles. So how to prove it? How to say that? Can we see matter? Can we see the particles inside the matter? No. No doubt we can see matter. The book is visible, isn't it? But can we see the particles inside the book? No, it is not possible. But we can prove it by doing certain activities to prove the properties of the matter. So we will take one activity for each property of the matter. So first, let me explain the first property of the matter. Matter is made up of particles. Okay. Now, what is that activity? First, let me read out and then I will explain the procedure. Okay, look here. Activity. Take some water in a beaker. Take some water in a beaker and note its level. Okay. You take some water in a beaker. Beaker, I think you can see here. You can look here. Now, in your lab, you will have. So, this beaker also, they will be of different volume. Like you will have 50 ml beaker, 100 ml beaker, 250 ml beaker. So, depending upon how much quantity you are taking, you have to take the beaker. Okay. Now, let us take a beaker. So, in that beaker, you take some water. Okay. So, and in that beaker, you will have some graduated marks. So, graduated marks means 50 ml, 100 ml, you will have their mark. So, suppose if you take 100 ml water in a beaker. Okay. Take some water in a beaker, say about 100 ml, and note its level. So till what level of the beaker the water is present, you just try to note it down. Okay. Now, after that, dissolve some salt or sugar in it with the help of a glass rod. Okay. Now you can see the glass rod in the picture. So in that glass rod, some brown color substance is present over here. So in that, for the brown color substance, you can take either salt or sugar. A little amount of salt or sugar you take in that glass rod, and with the help of that glass rod, what do? You put that salt or sugar into the beaker which contains water. Okay. What happens when you put salt or sugar inside the beaker of the water? Do you find any change in the level of the water? What do you observe here? So here, the salt dissolves in the water, no doubt. Whether you take salt or sugar, it readily dissolves in the water. But the level of the water do not change. Just look here. The level of the water do not change. So just now I told you, suppose you are taking 50 ml of water in the beaker. To that 50 ml of water, if you add little quantity of either sugar or salt with the help of glass rod and stir it. Stir means what? If you mix, then what happens there? You are adding some quantity of salt or sugar to water now. So will the level of water rise above 50 ml or it will decrease below 50 ml? No, it will not rise nor decrease. The level of the water will remain as 50 ml only. It will not change. Why? What is the reason? This is because the particles of the sugar or salt get into the space between the particles of the water. So just now we have seen one of the property we have studied under matter. What is that? There exists space between the particles of the water, isn't it? What was the first point? Matter consists of particles. So these particles are very tiny, or the particles are very, very small in size. The next is, there is a space between the tiny particles of the water. So whatever the space you have between those particles of the water, in those spaces, whatever the salt or sugar you are adding, that will get dissolved or that will be occupied in those spaces. What does this show? This shows that matter is made up of what? Particles, isn't it? So from this experiment, what we can conclude? Matter is made up of particles. So because matter is made up of particles, then only it is able to occupy the spaces between the tiny particles, isn't it? Now you can watch the figure here. Here 3 beakers are present. In the first beaker you can see. So what is present in the first beaker? You have only water molecules, isn't it? In the first beaker. So in the second beaker, what you are doing? To those what see, the molecules you can observe here in the first beaker, those round color. So those are called as what? Molecules of water, isn't it? Because we are taking water, so definitely the molecules of water will be present. Now to that beaker, with the help of spatula, you are adding some sugar, isn't it? So you can look at the figure. Once you are adding the sugar from the glass rod, those sugar particles, they are going into the empty spaces present between these molecules of water, isn't it? So see how the sugar granules, they are falling into the empty spaces between the particles. Next, so once you add those granules and then mix that glass rod with the water, then what do you observe in the third figure? All the sugar particles, they are occupying the empty spaces. The brown color sugar particles you can observe here, isn't it? That means these tiny particles of sugar, they are occupying the empty spaces which are present between the particles of the water. That means this shows that matter is made up of particles. Because particles are there, they are occupying the positions inside the beaker between the molecules of the water, isn't it? I think this property is very clear. Let me tell you once again. Just now we have seen the 4 properties of matter, isn't it? Matter is made up of particles. What is the next point? These particles are very tiny. Next, third one is what? There is lot of space between the particles of the matter. What is the next point? The next point is the particles are always in continuous motion. And the last one is what? There is an attractive force. There is an attractive force between the particles of the matter. So regarding these 5 points, for each point we have different activities. So by performing the activity, we can prove that particular point under the properties of the matter, isn't it? I think by this time you might have understood what is a matter more clearly. What is a matter? What are its classification, how the matter is classified, and then what are the different properties of matter, and how we can explain, how can we justify the properties of the matter by different activities. Okay, children? So for today, I think this first point regarding the activity is sufficient. Like what I would suggest is you try to maintain one separate notes. You try to maintain one separate notes for the physical science, and whatever the topics are being taught regularly, you just try to note down the points inside that. And at the same time, daily, we will give you some evaluation, some homework type. Okay. So with that homework type, you can just write down in your notes, like whatever you have understood, like how you are able to follow till what point. Okay. Now, for today's class, what we have learned, let us see. What we have learned: definition of matter, properties of matter. Okay. So definition of matter, what just I'll briefly revise. Matter is whatever we are seeing around us, that is called as a matter. So the classification was also done on matter according to different views. So in the ancient days, matter was classified based on the 5 basic elements called as Panchatattva. Next matter was classified based on the physical nature. Like based on the physical nature, matter is divided into 3 types: solids, liquids, and gases. And the next third classification was what? Based on the chemical composition. The matter was classified as what? Pure mixtures or pure compounds, isn't it? Now, regarding the properties of matter, just the 5 points which we have seen just now. What are they? Matter is made up of particles. The second point is the particles are very tiny. The third point is what? There is a lot of space between the tiny particles. The next point, fourth one, is what? These particles are always in continuous motion. And the last one is what? There is an attractive force between the particles of the matter. Okay. So different activities we have to read depending, or for each and every property of matter, we have to learn activities. Then only it will be very easy for us to understand the properties of matter. Okay. Next, today's evaluation or today's homework for you is define matter with examples. So your own examples you can give. So what is matter? You define just now what we have discussed. With different types of examples you can give. Anything which you find in the surroundings, around surroundings. It may, I told you, it may be a living thing or it may be a non-living thing. Anything which you just think of it, you can give your own examples for matter. Now the next question what we have here is explain the properties of matter. So what are the different properties of matter? Just now we have read those 6 properties. So just try to outline those 6 properties of matter. So we have seen today the first activity regarding the matter consists of particles, isn't it? Regarding the next properties of matter, we will see in brief all the activities one by one in a sequence. Okay, students, I think you have understood. So tomorrow I will try to continue the next part of this chapter. Thank you.